Muted.
Okay, let's begin. So this is the marketing and training part of your leadership training. This is Jenny talking right now, so hello everyone. Let's give an overview of exactly what our departments have. So the first department that we'll look at is our marketing department. These are all the things that we do in this department, so anything that's related to your website, checklist, anything on Facebook, all of your online reviews, the marketing plans, any kind of advertisements, brochures, Lease Labs, which is the web-to-print company, and then ePay. That's everything that we do in the marketing department. The training department has all of the online university. We also do the mystery shops, anything to do with WABUCs or the WOW certificates, and then we also do a lot of like book reading. So those are two examples of books that you would be reading if you were to move up in your leadership. So this is an overview of everything that we do on a daily basis. If you ever had a question about who to go to, this is a great just example of who to ask. So that's an overview. This is all of our beautiful shining faces. This is what we all look like in this department. So you have me in the top. Spencer works a lot with our website and also Entrada. Tiffany is our assistant. She works a lot with WABUCs and the university and Craigslist and Facebook. And then, of course, we have Kitty, who kind of runs everything from the top level. The number on the bottom is just a general phone number that you can call if you want to call someone in marketing, but we each have our own phone numbers as well. And we all have access to that email on the bottom. So if you ever had a question and you didn't know who to email, you can always just email marketing@netwasatch.com and we can all see that and answer your question. So that's our training team. So what exactly is marketing? If you've never taken any kind of formal training in marketing, let me break it down for you. We basically are linking what the customer wants with what we can actually deliver to them. So marketing is constantly listening to what the consumers want, and we are constantly trying to figure out where they came from and what they're looking for. So that's why guest cards are so important to our department. It's great for you on the leasing side so that you can understand them better and know what their needs are so that you can sell to them better. But marketing also uses the guest cards on a monthly basis to understand where people are coming from and exactly what they're interested in. So that's an overview of what marketing is. First topic is going to be market surveys. If you've never done a market survey before, let me break it down for you. The reason why we do them is because we're really interested in getting good information from the properties when it comes to different pricing, different advertising, different products. And again, marketing uses this so that we can create better ads so that your property is seen in a better light compared to your competition. And so we need to know what your competition is doing before we could actually make an ad that would be effective. So a lot of our decisions are made on market surveys, and we put a lot of emphasis on them. The who that's responsible for the market survey is the community manager. So if you were to step up in your leadership role and take on that management position, the market survey would be compiled by you. You might get pieces of information from your leasing staff, but it's really important that the manager understands what is happening outside of their walls. So that's the person that's responsible for this. And a really good market survey would be something that's very accurate. We're looking for price, product, and the services. So we want to know everything that your competition is doing, and we want to know what they're doing today, because a lot of stuff changes each month. So it's important that we know exactly what's happening outside of your walls. And we want to take these surveys pretty frequently. So that brings us to the when. We do market surveys twice a month. If you're not doing super great in your leasing numbers and maybe you're interested in figuring out how you can do better, it's better to even do a market survey 3 times a month. You could do it as often as you wanted, but it's a good way to know exactly what your competition is doing. And even if you think things aren't changing, you might be surprised after you collect a market survey that things really are changing in your market, and we want to stay ahead of that change and ahead of that curve. So market surveys should be done at least twice a month. the best place to get the information is by doing some kind of online search, looking for things that are new in your area or maybe some really established properties. So it's good to start by looking online, and then you can call them to actually verify the information. So maybe you find their property website, or you find like one of their ILS ads. Maybe you go into forrent.com and you find one of their property ads, and you get some information about pricing or maybe their floor plans or their amenities. You can use that information online, and you can just call them and ask them what are their pricing or what's their amenities, and you can just verify that online to see if it's accurate. But really the best way to get market information is by visiting them in person, and I'm going to share a little story in a minute about the experience that Tiffany and I had when we were doing market surveys a little while ago. So really the why that we do this is because we know that everything is constantly changing, and if we're not able to rely on our managers and our area leaders to be an expert, then marketing doesn't really have accurate information. So we need to be able to rely on you guys to give us information on what's happening in the competition, because obviously our office is not the majority of where all the properties are located. We're located in California, so we know that Utah has a ton of properties and we can't make it there and we can't shop your competition for you. We need to rely on you guys to give us accurate information. So that's the why of the market survey. The how, really the best way to get information is by doing a personal visit. We know that by calling them, it can get kind of boring or repetitive, and maybe people will recognize you, like your voice or your questions, and they'll just give you information just to like give it to you and not have it be accurate. So doing a personal visit is really, really important. If you only have like 30 minutes and one time a month you're able to go and shop another competition, I think that it would be really beneficial to you, because you might get kind of set in your ways in your community, and you might forget that other prospects are probably looking at multiple properties. So understanding that prospect mindset and getting back out there and looking at your competition is a great way to complete a market survey. And then finally, if someone calls you from a different property and they're looking to collect their market survey information, it's really important to give them good and accurate information. We don't want to create enemies out of our competition. We don't want to give them things that will hurt them. So understand that it's okay to give them good information, because we know that that's how we will get the best information in return. So you can use like the rent summary report or similar information to give them accurate information. And remember, it's never good enough just to tell them, well, our prices are changing all the time, so I can't give you an accurate price. It's important that we're giving them good information. So let me tell you about the experience that Tiffany and I had when we shopped a property probably about a month ago. We went to about 10 properties over the span of like a day and a half, so we saw a lot up front, and it was a great experience for us. We actually went to one property that was in the middle of a turn, so everything, like all the construction material was out. There was like buckets of paint, the carpet was all ripped up, like the kitchen was all torn up. It was just a mess inside of there. And of course we didn't tell her that we were in the industry. We just pretended to be prospects. And so we kind of like hovered by the door, and we're trying to signal that we didn't want to go inside. And the girl made us come inside, and she tried to sell us this apartment by showing us, I mean, this huge mess. It was crazy. It was so gross. We didn't want to go in there. And it was such an eye-opening experience, because Wasatch has such a high like standard and quality for the way that we tour people, and we would never show them a unit that's in the middle of a turn. And I would just assume that other property management companies wouldn't do that, but you would be surprised that not everyone is as high of a standard as Wasatch is. And so getting out there and collecting market survey information is such an eye-opening experience, and I wouldn't have known that if we didn't visit them on site. So even though you can collect market information just by calling, it's really important that you also go out there and see what your prospects are seeing, because we would be able to sell to them much better if we knew exactly what they were experiencing themselves. So that wraps up market surveys. If you have any questions, again, you can put them in the chat box. The promotion and advertising section of marketing, this is really how our information is pulled. Each month we look at the top lead sources, and we also look at the top lease sources. So you can see here, this is the summary of everything that we did throughout the entire year. So the first source that you notice on the lead side is Craigslist. It's probably no surprise, but Craigslist is our biggest lead source and why we put such an emphasis on it in the marketing department. Last year we got 30,000 people that just either called, emailed, or walked in based on an ad that they saw on Craigslist. So that's a crazy number. Next to that is your home and Google, which if you combine those would be even more than Craigslist. We really believe in leasing on an online presence. Signage is right below that, but that houses like a lot of things like curb appeal, balloons, banners, referrals like from friends. That's all like in signage. So you can see exactly where our top lead sources come from and why we put an emphasis on what we put an emphasis on. And then if you move over to the lease section, our biggest source is coming from that signage section, which is kind of like a catch-all. It's just a variety of things. And then right below that, and almost number one, is Craigslist again. And then, of course, is your home. And right after that is our outreach marketing, which is when you partner with businesses or you ask other businesses to refer you and you refer them in turn. So that's the outreach marketing. And then you can see resident referrals just below that. We're trying to push resident referrals even more this year, but last year they still were our number 6 lease source. So you can see exactly why we emphasize certain things and why we really require that you complete a web audit, because the number 2 and 3 source are coming directly from online. So moving directly on, Craigslist is a huge part of marketing. It's a huge part of this department. It's a big part of Wasatch's marketing plans and structures, and you can see that Craigslist is our number 1 traffic generator. It's also very, very cheap. On a leasing agent side, it doesn't cost you anything to do. We do have to pay for our roof account, but just straight from Craigslist, we don't have to pay for anything. So our average renter is between 24 and 40, and when we create ads, we want to keep that in mind, that some people are a little bit older than us, and they might even be a little bit younger than us, but they're between 24 and 40. Whenever we post to a third-party source, so this would be like an ILS, so apartments.com, apartmentguide.com, For Rent, those are all the third parties. It costs us about $14 to actually get them to call us, and then we spend almost $500 actually getting them to sign a lease. So Craigslist is so much cheaper than our ILS sources, and that's why we put a really big emphasis on that and why we require everyone to post at least 3 times a day, and if you're struggling for traffic, maybe between 4 up to 5 times a day. So overall, our general cost per lead is around $8, and you can see that number ahead of it was $14, so it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to put all of our properties on the ILSs because it's more expensive for us and we can do it cheaper in other places. One thing to note about Craigslist is that they do monitor our IP addresses, so that's basically like a map of your computer. Your computer specifically has a single IP address, and when you post your account, like if you post from your account on a different person's computer, it can actually mess up that IP address connection, and Craigslist will think that it might be a spam or a scam ad, and it could lead to you getting flagged, or it could lead to you even getting blocked. So it's important to make sure that you're posting from a single computer when you are posting to Craigslist. So for example, if a manager needs to post to Craigslist and their computer is being used, it's better just to wait until your computer is free than to go to a leasing agent's computer to actually do the post. Of course, you cannot post the exact same ad within 72 hours. If you're a leasing agent or financial right now, you should be posting a completely different ad every single time. But if you're using Roof, you can't post the same ad within 72 hours. It can lead to getting flagged. Some of the differences between Craigslist and Roof. So of course, Craigslist, we use Internet Explorer for that, and that's just to help us make sure that we are only using Chrome for Roof, so we use Internet Explorer for Craigslist. It's also important that you're posting from your own Craigslist account. So you have each person on site has a different Craigslist account with a unique tracking number, and that's how you get credit for your ads. So we're expecting that you're posting 3 times a day and rotating the times that you're posting throughout the entire office, because if you're not checking with the rest of the office, let's say that I post one at noon and then the person next to me posts one at like 12:30, to a prospect, it's going to look like it's the exact same ad, and it can lead to you getting flagged. So it's important that we're actually speaking to the other people in our office and making sure that we have a good schedule in place so that we're not posting ads too close together. It's also important that you delete your ads that are over 24 hours old. This can lead to flagging if you leave them in your account for too long. And you can't have more than 2 ads at any time, but we recommend you actually only have 1 ad at a time. Also, don't renew or repost an old ad. This is only a Roof feature. You cannot do this from a regular Craigslist account. And then we suggest that you hit that no replies to email button, because we're trying to track them, so we want to make sure that your tracking number is in place. And if you do the email box open, people will email you instead of calling you, and you'll just lead to a lot of emails that are unseen because you're not checking your email very frequently. For Roof, and if you were to move up as a manager, you probably would be posting to Roof for the majority of your time. You might already be doing it now, but Roof is done by one person in the office. It's usually done by the property manager, and you're expected to post 3 times a day. Roof is very easy. If you've never used it, it's actually, you just go to your property website, you find the floor plan that you want, and there's this little blue post button below it. And when you click that post button, it actually does all of the work for you. So you don't have to do anything on a Roof ad. All you need to do is change the title that's generated, because the title that generates is usually about the amenities, and it's not very eye-catching. So after you've generated it, you change the title of it, and then you are done. Roof is very easy, and so it's really easy to post 3 times a day, and that is the expectation. Also for Roof, you don't delete old ads. It's not like the regular Craigslist. Roof kind of is a little bit special, and you don't have to delete the ads. And there's this auto renew feature, so if you just turn that little box on, it will actually pop your old ads back onto the home page of Craigslist, and so you don't have to post your old ads again. It will just renew them automatically for you. All of these features are probably already in place on your property, so you shouldn't have to mess with any of those. And then the contact information is actually just preloaded into the system. Before I set you up with a Roof account, we put all of that contact information into it, so you don't have to do any of that. So that wraps up Craigslist and Roof and the expectations of it, and you understand now why we put such an emphasis on it, because it's our #1 lead generator. So let's look at web audits. If you've ever done a web audit before, you're probably used to an old form. If you haven't done the new one this month, I'll show you what that looks like. But first, let's look at why they actually are important. So first is accuracy. We want to make sure that what we have online is actually accurate and up to date, because a ton of leads are coming from your website, and we want to make sure that when people call, they're not frustrated because they see something online that you actually don't have. So it's also important to help maximize your internet listings. So those are all of those ILS sites, and we want to make sure that those are accurate. We also want to be proofreading and editing our content, because sometimes there's spelling errors and maybe things are outdated, and so we want to make sure that everything is being edited and up to date. And then we also believe in transparency. Marketing is really stands behind this idea that we want to be transparent. We don't want to hide anything from our prospects, and so we need to know that what we have online is accurate and is transparent, and so we collect that information through web audits. It's also important on a reputation management side. So sometimes the web audits will ask you to look at some of your online reviews and see if any of them need to have replies to them. And we do this because we want to make sure that we are addressing any issues that maybe some residents or prospects could have. So we want to make sure that you guys are monitoring your online reviews and making sure that your property is represented accurately. Also, Wasatch as a brand, so our entire company is being portrayed by the online reviews, and so that's why we have someone who's going in and replying to it, and it's coming from a corporate account, it's coming from Rent Dynamics. So it's important that Wasatch as a brand has good online reputation management, and we do that through web audits as well. So if you want to find the form, before it used to be on the how-to site. Now, started last month, we actually are going to email you the form at the beginning of every single month. No, at the end. Actually, I'm going to do it at the end of the month. I don't know why I said beginning here. So I'll do it at the end of every month, and it will be effective for the next month, and I will put the date on the web audit, so you can always look out for that email. That's how you find the form. The format of the form is a little bit different than the old one. I'll show you what it looks like in the next slide. We have a section that is called recurring topics, and then we have a next section that's called rotating topics. And the rotating topics are going to change every single month. And I'm going to get input from your regional managers, from your area leaders, or just from a marketing perspective on what we think needs to be addressed. And so those rotating topics will change every single month, and that's why it will be important that you save the web audit when I send it at the end of the month. It's important that you save it because that will be what we are accepting for the next month. And if you do an old web audit, we're not going to accept it. We are going to require that you're doing the current month's web audit because of those rotating topics. The new form should take you about 30 minutes to complete. It shouldn't be too long, and it's expected that every property turns in a web audit. So if you are moving up in this leadership role and now you become a property manager and you realize that your name is always on this naughty list, as we call it, where you're not turning in your web audits or you're not turning in your newsletters, understand that it is expected that every property is turning in a web audit, and we collect these by the 10th of the month, so that way the marketing team has enough time to actually change your website before the end of the month. So we collect them by the 10th of the month, and the form can either be printed or completed in Excel, and then you just email it to our email at marketing@netwasatch.com, and then we will edit whatever you tell us to edit. We're hoping that things are accurate, but we know that edits come, and so this is how we collect them. This is what the web audit looks like for May. The first side, like on the left-hand side, those are the reoccurring topics. So that's what you can expect to see every single month. We're always going to look at your team photos. We're always going to look at your pricing, and then we're going to look at your links. So the links include like the Apply Now link, the Check Availability link, the Pay Rent link, and the Service Request. We will always be checking those topics. And on the right-hand side, you can see that rotating topics, and these are what will change every single month. So this is what we looked at in May. If you haven't already done a web audit, you should check with your property manager today and ask if maybe you can help them complete this month's web audit so that you can understand how to do this, because the property managers are the ones that are completing these web audits. So there's two different sections. So how to complete a web audit, it's really easy. First, start thinking like a property manager for the reoccurring topics. Those are the ones that was like the link check, the pricing, and the team photos. You want to review everything really carefully and really detail-oriented, because every little thing matters to us, and we want to make sure that we're fixing every little thing on your website, so that way we don't have angry prospects coming in that are saying, well, your website said this. We want to make sure that all the details are looked over. And it's really simple. You're just going to ask yourself every question that's on the audit and then respond with either a yes or no. For the rotating topics, you want to actually think like a prospect versus a property manager. So you'll actually search for your property online instead of because sometimes you'll go to Yelp, you'll go to Google, you'll go to forrent.com, so you want to search for that property. Again, review the details really carefully, and then same thing, ask yourself the question and respond to it either yes or no. So some of the questions say like, are your office hours correct? And then you would say yes or no, and if you're saying no, then you want to make sure you give us enough details so that we can actually find out what your correct hours are, and then that way we can update it. It's important that if you are checking no, you are giving us additional information, and also be very specific when you're asking for changes. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand exactly what you're saying, so it's really helpful if you know how to take a screenshot, if you can actually include a screenshot in your audit, if that's an option. It's important that you complete the entire thing every single month. It's not a very long form. The new one's not very long. I said it should take you about 30 minutes. So we expect that you are completing the entire thing every single month. And if you find that your website just has a lot of edits that need to be made, you could even turn it in. You could turn a web audit in, but still contact us additionally if you feel like something needs to be addressed right away. If there's any kind of major errors, like our pay rent went down a few weeks ago, if you have like a major error like that where residents can't do a major function, then you can always notify us immediately, and we will like stop what we're doing and make sure that we give priority to your property right then. And at the end, when you submit a web audit and we have time to actually fix everything, someone from the marketing team will email you that your edits have actually been completed. So that way you can be confident that what you've done is actually having like a value, that you're not just doing it just to do it, that we actually are fixing what you are notifying. So those are the web audits. Let's talk about the university. We're actually launching a contest later today, but let me give you an overview of what the university is like and why we have it. So you can see this little screenshot. This is like Kitty's view of her website, of her university, and so you can see the classes that you have coming up, the tabs at the top, the My Library. That's every single course that's available to you. If you're interested in learning, like there's a class that's on the essential skills for a new manager, and if you wanted just to go above and beyond and really put yourself kind of a step above other people and wanted to take that class, you could find that in the My Library section, and that would be a great way to give yourself a little bit of extra learning. So we launched a new university system. If you've been with us for a long time, before December, we had a totally different university system, but now we only use the new one. It includes online classes, actual classroom classes. So if you've ever taken a class with a peer ambassador, those classes are also housed in the university. We have different videos, webinars, documents, everything like that. That's all here in the university. Everything's in one place. The university is really easy to use. The old one was a little bit more complicated, but this new one is super easy, and it is very like user-friendly, with this main page being where you spend most of your time. Most of the courses are available in English and Spanish. If maybe you come into a property that has someone that only speaks Spanish and you have kind of that language barrier, a lot of the courses are available in Spanish, so you can be sure to kind of relay that to maybe that person that feels like, well, I can't take a class because I don't speak English. They could take it in Spanish as well. We also have really easy access to things like recorded trainings that HR has done, maybe a manager's recorded something, a peer mentor, or just the training department. We can put all of our recorded trainings on the university, and most of them are on there as well. We really believe in ongoing and consistent training. We don't ever want to stop training you guys, because we know that we will stand out against our competition if we are constantly being the best in what we do. And so a lot of these courses you might have taken when you first got hired on, like there's a class on telephone skills or like computer skills, time management skills. So it might seem like, oh, I've already taken that class, I don't need to take it again, but we really believe in this ongoing training, because we know that You can forget things that you've taken years before, or maybe you've gotten in this habit where I always answer the phone like this, and this training will help you kind of break out of that. Or maybe you have a mystery shop score that wasn't so great, and you don't really know how to improve because you feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. All of these courses will help you have more of this like ongoing training where you can actually improve your skills instead of just saying, well, this is what it is, and you know, you took that class 2 years ago, you should remember everything. You know, we don't really believe that. We know that we need to have this consistent and ongoing training. So this university helps us do just that. There's a lot of courses that you can take that aren't assigned to you, like I said before. So if you're interested in learning something specific, you can take any of the courses that you want. And it's a huge tip that if you move into this manager role, that you're logging in every single week to actually review who has classes due and making sure that everyone is staying on top of things, because we want to make sure that we're preventing a lot of like mistakes. For example, a lot of the maintenance classes that they have are to help make sure that we're putting safety first. So it's important that we're staying on top of those courses rather than waiting until, you know, something bad happens. So it's important that we log in every single week. Another department in the training section is this peer ambassador role. If you've ever had a mentor before, the mentor of the mentors is this peer ambassador. So they are responsible for coaching, mentoring, teaching, and really building this foundation of new associates. If you've ever mentored someone, I suggest that you talk to a peer ambassador if you want to mentor someone. But if you've ever mentored someone, you know that you have to go through this job skills checklist. And that checklist was created by this peer ambassador, like this team of peer ambassadors, and then our training department. And we're trying to make sure that we have this support team set in place for all of our new hires. So the peer ambassadors are over all of the new hires. After you've been hired here for about 60 days, we expect that you have gone through 2 different job skills checklists, which makes sure that we have a very well-trained hire, someone that understands our company, someone that understands how to do their job. So that's why we have the job skills checklist. They are worked on by the peer ambassador and the mentor and then the community manager. So if you become a manager, you're going to get some new hires, and it's expected that you also help train all of the new hires as well, not just leave it up to the manager or leave it up to the mentor. And we are going to wrap up here with the mystery shop section. So mystery shops are kind of a mystery to some people, so let me break it down on how you can improve your score and why we do mystery shops. So the reason that we do mystery shops is because we're really trying to catch you do it right. We want to make sure that we are rewarding you and that we're giving you the credit that you deserve. So we have a mystery shop program that goes out every single quarter. So every single property is shopped 4 times a year. It's random on who gets shopped. But really what we're trying to do is reward you for doing it right. So a mystery shopper will come in, they'll be unidentified, and they'll go through this huge checklist of things that we expect our Wasatch employees to do. Then after they submit their scores and they put them online, then they send the scores to us, and we look and see if you guys did it right, or if maybe we have some areas that we need to work on. And if you actually completed a score of 80% or better, you're eligible to get bonuses next month. You're eligible to be in this Hall of Fame, and you really just get a lot of bragging rights. And it's a great way to have this spotlight kind of shining on you that says, like, I'm ready to move up. You know, I have really great mystery shop scores. I'm doing everything right. So that's why we have a mystery shop program. We're not trying to punish you for doing things wrong. We really are trying to catch you do it right, and we're trying to give you the opportunity to get bonuses for yourself too. So it really is this idea of a continued investment in our properties. We want to look at your areas of strength, but also the mystery shop can identify areas of improvement and maybe some areas that you need to focus on or work on in the future. And so as a property manager, it's important that you're aware of the strengths and weaknesses of all of your associates so that you can kind of mentor them and cater the skills and the opportunities that you give them. For example, if someone's not really great at closing or maybe they're not very good at doing their follow-ups, then you could give them tasks that would really challenge them to close a sale or challenge them to do follow-ups. So it's a great way to show you areas of improvement and areas of strength. We also believe that it's expected that we believe that we need to give you expectations on how to get the results that we are expecting to give you. So I will show you that. Actually, I'm not going to show you that. I thought I had that in here. Sorry. I can email you that. If you're ever interested in knowing what gets shopped on a mystery score, I can actually send that to you because we know that you expect to know what's going to happen. We don't want to just throw you in it blind. We also know that it's important to keep an open mind when you are discussing an area for improvement. So if you had an associate that maybe needed to work on their closing skills, it's important to approach that person in a way that they would respond best. You need to have an open mind on how you can coach them. It's also important to understand the shopper's perspective. So sometimes it might feel like you deserve to have a better score than you were given, or maybe you felt like, well, I know I did that, and I know that I called them by their name, or I know that I sent them a follow-up note. But it's important to know that this is the shopper's view of it. And so if they didn't feel like you've treated them the way that we expect you to treat them, or that you didn't send them a follow-up note, or maybe it never got delivered to them, it's important to understand that the shopper really does have the upper hand in this and that it's their perspective of what happened, because they're really like a prospective resident, right? We're not sending in shoppers that are supposed to be like residents. We're sending in shoppers that are supposed to be like prospects. So if you're treating the shopper the way you would treat a different resident, you can actually learn a lot about ways that you can improve, because you might think that you did something that the shopper didn't feel like you did, and then that can show you how you can treat your prospects a little bit better. So as I mentioned before, each property is shopped once a quarter, so that's 4 times a year. We do not tell you who's being, when the shoppers are coming. I don't even know when they're coming, honestly. It's kind of just as they come, as their schedule allows. But we expect that you're treating every single prospect as if you knew that they were in fact a shopper, so that way we can give them 100% satisfaction and really give them the Wasatch culture and show them how Wasatch is really different from other people. Because if you go back to that, the market survey, it's really cool if you take the list of what you are graded on for your mystery shop, which I can send that to you. If you take that with you to another property and you kind of are grading them based on what we require of our associates, it's really important, or it's really cool, because you might see some areas that they didn't do that stuff, or they missed the mark, and see how we really stand out against them. So that's why we do the mystery shops, and it's actually fun to actually be your own mystery shopper and go into your competition. So you can kind of combine mystery shopping with market surveys. The standard of excellence, we expect everyone to get 80%. This isn't hard to get 80%. If you're getting lower than 80%, we really see this as something that needs to change. We expect that you are actually taking additional action to improve your scores. If you get 92 to 94%, that's really, really good, and we're really proud of you. If you get 95 to 100%, that's considered really good, very, very excellent. And if you get 100%, then you are our superstar, and we put you in our Hall of Fame. And of course, you get bonuses with all 3 of the categories above. You would get a bonus. And let's look at what the bonuses are. All of these are really, it's important to remember, though, that you can't get a bonus without filling out a guest card completely. So even if you get a 92% on your mystery shop score, if your guest card in Yardi is not completed, you would not be eligible for a bonus. So even if you do a follow-up and the prospect actually receives that thank you note, but you don't record it in Yardi that you did that, it would be considered an incomplete guest card and you would not receive a bonus. So it's important to complete the guest card, but let's look at the bonuses. If you got a perfect score, 100% on your phone and on the tour, you get $150 on next month's paycheck. If you just got 100% on site, but you didn't get 100% on your phone, you would get $75 next month. And if you got 95 to 99%, you would get $50. If you got 92 to 94, you would get $25. And if you got 92% or better just on your phone, you would get $25. But again, that very first one in the yellow, that combined score, it has to be done by the same person. So sometimes the mystery shoppers actually catch two people. So you might have one person do the phone call and one person do the on-site section. It would have to be done by the same person in order to get that $150 bonus. So I just mentioned this, but to qualify for the bonus, every single piece of information needs to be entered into the Rent Dynamics guest card and to Yardi. So we're looking for that initial telephone contact so that is recorded. We're making sure that you actually booked an appointment, that they actually showed up and you toured them, that you either did a written follow-up note or some kind of email, and then that you did a telephone follow-up call. And I would say that most often the follow-up note, the written one, is the one that's missing. So make sure that if you actually are doing that you're putting it in the guest card, because that's really important for us on a training side to see that you did complete all 5 steps of the guest card. And follow-up by email or text will be counted for bonus points, but it doesn't replace a written thank you note or a personal phone call. So it would get you a bonus point, which could help your overall score, but it doesn't replace the written note. And we really expect everyone to get at least 80%. And if you are not getting 80%, at least on a consistent basis, then we would expect that there is additional coaching and mentoring happening. And as a property manager, this is really the first step that you would take. If you failed the first one, we believe in coaching and maybe giving some additional training through the university and writing a performance action plan. If you've ever failed a shop, then you know what a performance action plan looks like. And you would get a follow-up shop. So it would be still unannounced. You wouldn't know who's actually coming in, but we would schedule a follow-up shop so that we can see after the training has happened, did you improve? And then if you pass the next one, then you would not be shopped again. If you had a second failed follow-up shop, then we start doing some counseling. It's a little bit more serious. We might actually require some kind of written note from an employee and a manager, and then we again would still do another follow-up shop. If you do 3 failed shops, it's a lot more serious. We do require some kind of disciplinary action, and it could lead to a termination. That's not something that we want to do. It's not something that we encourage people to do, but if you're not able to perform if you are getting 3 failed shops, that's practically the entire year, because each shop comes once a quarter, which is every 3 months. So if you failed 3 in 1 year, that means that the entire year you haven't been performing well enough, and that's why it could include maybe some form of, I don't want to say it's always going to include termination, because Wasatch doesn't believe in that. We believe in coaching, but it is something to really take seriously. If you fail the shop, this is what it would look like on the university. So we upload the scores into the university so that we can keep track of exactly what your scores were. So you can see here, this is a good example of someone that passed one section but failed another section. So they both get uploaded. The scores would either come in red or green. Again, if it's below 90% or below 80%, it would come up in red. And actually, when you hover over the assignment, because if you failed it, you do get assignments automatically assigned, they have this little red computer next to them, and if you hover over that red, it will tell you that it's a shop-based assignment, meaning that the assignment is created automatically because of a failed shop. So the on-site section has courses that are geared towards helping you on-site, and then the phone section, if you failed that part, you would get a course assigned that's all about telephone skills. It's also really cool because if you select one of those, like where how I have that little red box on the Sarah shop on site, if you select that, it will open up your site directly below it. So this is what you would see. This is what the shops look like if you were ever interested in actually hearing the phone call conversation, or you wanted to read exactly what the shopper said about you. You could select that from your transcript in the university, and it will open up this box where you can read all about exactly what you did and listen to the actual phone call conversation. So that is all about mystery shops. The summary of this, I know that it was long, but the summary of this is we talked about what is marketing, how a market survey is important, our main advertising generators. We looked at Craigslist. We talked about web audits. We looked at the university. We talked about the peer program, and then we wrapped up with the mystery shops. If you have any questions about any of the things I went over today, you can leave them in the question box right now, or you can email me or call me, but these are all great things to know if you're looking at moving up into leadership, because these are all things that you would deal with on a weekly to monthly basis. But other than that, this wraps up our training, and you are all free to go. If you want to download what I went over today, it's right there on your training panel. But other than that, you guys are free to go. Thank you for being here.